And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. We're just looking at the sun here in colorized magnetogram to see 0 sunspots. No areas of significant magnetic organization. Some coronal holes, coronal hole wind stream on the way. We'll be talking about how fools claim we know everything. Fools claim we know everything, Mom. That's the thing. Fools claim that. Hey, do you have photos coming from Uranus? There are photons coming from Uranus. Photons, yes. What about some Dork matter? We've got a story on Dork matter, yes. It's true, folks. So there is an active region rising here in the south. It's already viewable on stereo A. We only show certain imagery from stereo A to keep you in suspense on purpose. Here it is in another wavelength. That was 171. This is 193. Cheddar 193. What are the favorites for coronal holes? Speaking of coronal holes, there's a significant near equatorial coronal hole here. This is a North Pole oriented one. This large, darker region here. NOAA forecasting a coronal hole wind stream to arrive from that in a couple of days. We'll get to it. Here's another close-up of that, as well as the setting former sunspots 2811 and 2812 in the upper right. Here's 211 angstroms, which shows you even greater depth to coronal holes. I'll let that play through a couple of runs. Great view of the coronal holes supplying the incoming protons as well as those active regions. Here's a diagram of the solar system to put things in perspective. There's where things will be in a week. Keep in mind, folks, that is not to scale. That is nowhere near to scale. There's a scale view, sort of. And that's the planetstoday.com. Here's a star chart. If you want to pause the video, feel free. Jupiter and Saturn rising before the sun. The radial flux is down to 74. Here's a 1-year chart of that. The black line is the radial flux, red line is the sunspot number. Here's a forecast for late tomorrow. Actually, late today. Late today, a density spike, followed by a slow tick down and then an uptick in velocity, peaking on the 3rd. Before midday on the 3rd is the peak velocity forecasted for the incoming coronal hole wind stream. Photons is still erupting. We'll give you the full list of volcanoes, which includes some new entries. Some mountains I've never heard of. You get to see me try to pronounce them for the first time. Anyway, there's Photons as it fills up its crater valley and becomes a shield volcano. Parts of the cinder cone have collapsed, and we see an ongoing process of lots of quite liquidy lava being sent down the upper slopes. And if you want to know the scale from this view, folks, a person would be about this tall. This foreground area is actually quite close to the camera, but this area down here is actually quite far away. Maybe like a quarter mile, maybe a little more than a quarter mile distance. So yeah, that's a live feed of Photons, if you haven't learned how to say it yet. If you haven't learned how to say Photons yet, I have no hope for you. Just kidding, folks. It really is erupting, though, in all seriousness. Also erupting is Mount Etna. Its 17th paroxysm now reported. This one a big one, producing a 20,000-foot ash plume. As it fertilizes the soil all around Sicily. By the way, windy.com has a sulfur dioxide feature. You can actually look at real-time sulfur dioxide maps if you're interested. Suwanosejima is also erupting in the Ryukyu Islands. Unknown volcanic ash cloud there. Dakono exploding on the Isle of Halmahera, which is by Indonesia, I think. Flight level 080 there. And here's a new one. I've never heard of this one. It's Tanaga in the Aleutian Islands. Low power likely due to snow cover has resulted in loss of operation and communication with all but 2 seismic stations at the volcano. Aviation code now designated as unassigned. Don't fly your home-built kit helicopter over Tanaga. Garaloy, also in the Aleutian Islands, low power likely due to snow cover has resulted in loss of communication there as well. So another seismic station. So unassigned to both of those Aleutian volcanoes, Tanaga and Garaloy. Don't fly your Jetson-style bubble hovercraft over the caldera. Pacaya in Guatemala is exploding. 11,000-foot ash plume above it. Fuego, also in Guatemala, exploding. 13,000-foot ash plume. Outdoing Pacaya by 2,000 feet. Sangay on the Isle of Ecuador, also exploding. A 19,000-foot volcanic ash plume there, and Brevenador in Ecuador has dissipated its ash. Sabancaya exploding in Peru, 24,000-foot ash plume above the Peruvian volcano Sabancaya. Please don't pole vault the caldera. Next, doing earthquakes over the past 24. Check it out, deep quake under Denali, a 2.5 magnitude at 119 kilometers. How about a 4.5 under Fiji? At over 547 kilometers. In the deep quake capital of the world, the area north of New Zealand. Deep quake in Argentina at a 4.5 magnitude, followed by about an hour and a half later, a deep quake at Fiji. So a bit of a deep quake event. Whether that's useful in forecasting earthquakes or not, I am unconvinced. Here's one out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, near Guam. Please leave us a comment if you felt that quake at Guam. U.S. military personnel. Here's a 4.9 at Chile. That's at 131 kilometers. A deep quake at Russia at a 4.1 magnitude. That happened at 3:17 this morning. On April Fool's Day, don't be April Fools. Get back to solar data. No solar flares over the past 24 hours to speak of, and no proton strikes either, as we forecasted the coronal mass ejection that occurred yesterday, not striking the Earth. Here's the GOES magnetometer over the past 3 days. We do see some sawtooth moments in there, as there's been some coronal hole wind streams still screwing around. And again, there's another one on the way, so expect to see more spiky readings on the GOES magnetometer. Here's a view of the heliospheric current sheet in terms of polarity. Earth solidly in the green North Pole-oriented current sheet, and about to receive a green North Pole-oriented coronal hole wind stream. It won't really be green, folks. We just arbitrarily designate those colors. And we can expect to remain in the North Pole current sheet here for the foreseeable future. Here's a line of sight field plot which shows you the sun's B field in blue. And you can see that North Pole coronal hole. Actually, it looks like a weakening system here. So it's been diffuse the whole time, pretty much, folks. Not a super well-defined coronal hole. That does not necessarily mean it won't provide lots of high-speed protons. Next, looking at filaments and sunspot groups. We don't have any sunspot groups. There are some filaments. You can see quite a few there around the south polar region, around this area. And the likelihood for additional coronal mass ejections does still exist. KP index is currently at 2. There's a 3-day chart of the KP index, a measurement of global geomagnetism. Now let's look at geospace magnetosphere movies. Right after we look at the real-time solar wind, which is pretty uneventful here. Although we did see another little uptick here in the solar wind speed, making it up to just over 430 kilometers a second. Current speed is 414. 414 kilometers a second. Current solar wind density 6.84 protons per cubic centimeter. Here's the magnetohydrodynamic pressure of the geospace, according to the space weather modeling framework. And we expect this to look fairly steady here over the past 4 hours, which is the extent of this geospace magnetosphere movie, and we'll return that to where it was to get the video uploaded more quickly. And thanks to everybody who tunes into our live premiere events and who views the videos later in syndication. Here are magnetic perturbations on the ground level. And we see some over the Canadian North Pole, over the South Pole, which is someplace south of Australia. Not even on the Antarctic continent, folks. Thousands of miles from the geographic South Pole. Less magnetic perturbations over the Siberian North Pole. By the way, this video is streamed live to Twitch. It's twitch.tv/smAsho. Have you checked out our other videos, folks? Do you only watch our daily space weather? Leave us a comment. Let us know what you're into. Did you see our Driving with Nibiru video from yesterday? Yes, Driving with Nibiru. Did you see our latest video with Eugene, the Diamond Anvil Too Hard to Smash? A free-form discussion about whatever we want. Did you see Fauci is a fraud? Did you see Shut Up Fauci? Did you see that? We've also got exclusive content on BitChute, such as our most viewed video there from March 19th last year. I'm losing my voice, folks. So let's do a cosmology segment before I do so. What about Dork matter? Dork matter? Are you excited about Dork matter? Is the future of cosmology so bright? Is the future of cosmology so bright that you've got to wear shades? Some models of space have come up with a way to rule out dark energy as a thing. Anyway, here's an article on SciTech Daily about it. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but new model raises doubt about the composition of 70% of our universe. Dark energy may simply not exist. It's not an April Fool's joke, folks. It's not an April Fool's joke, folks. There are models that if you build them, they will come. Let's pick a random number. That was on SciTech Daily again, once again, folks. SciTech Daily. The idea that perhaps dark energy may not exist. Some of our viewers may have already thought of this. Today's random number is 264, which will coincide with something. Let's see what. 264 is a quasar, a BL Lacertae object. In other words, an object with a specific portion of the spectrum where it has a spike. In the X-ray, it's fairly consistent, and certainly pretty consistent here over the past 30 days. Let's take a look at it, and now's the time to place your bets on if it'll look like a single point of light or not. It'll look like a single point of light, folks, because it's listed as a quasar. Again, this is entry 264. Let's get a more interactive view here on Aladdin Light. How about in infrared? And there it isn't. Let's look at it in X-ray. Oh, it is there in infrared. Cheers. And you can actually see some features there as a result of that infrared spectrum image. How about on X-ray? And there it is on the Chandra. Great view of that. And it looks like there could be a jet offset, perhaps over in this direction, making it have a bit of a smudged appearance. And whether it's a jet or whether it's just a photonic jet or a protonic jet, it doesn't really matter in terms of the way it looks. The jet, or whatever you want to call it, appears off. Let's check it in blue light. There you have it in blue light. You can see the center shown a bit off of the center of the brightest spot. And how about on, does it show up on pan-stars? Yes, a great high-res view there on pan-stars. And this could indeed be an opposite direction jet, or plume, or whatever you'd like to call it. But in any case, that's today's random object, quasar B0806 plus 524. Entry number 264 at the Neil Gorell's Burst Alert Telescope. Do you have X-rays coming out of Uranus? Chandra does. And those pink areas right there, those are the X-ray spectra. Allow me to get off screen. So yeah, it turns out there are X-rays, and you know, Uranus has an interesting orbit. It's got 2 different ring systems, and it's got some really violent aurorae. Its inclination is interesting as well, due to the way that its poles are associated with the ecliptic in the solar system. So Uranus, of course, an interesting planet, and it's got some very bright aurorae, as you can see there. It looks like some X-rays perhaps bouncing off of the ring system in that image. And this article's on space.com. You'll see it all over the Science Wire. And last but not least, I'd like to close things out with some hilarity. What you talking about, fools? Astronomers declare no further research required. Astronomers round the globe reveal we've learned everything we need to know about the universe. Yeah, I don't think this is an April Fool's joke, folks. I think this might be for real. And we found this article here on cosmosmagazine.com. Let's read an excerpt. I'm going to do a fake voice. Stella Starite. This is Stella Starite. We only had 1 paper submitted to us the last month, says Stella Starite, editor-in-chief of Nature Astrology. And it was just about Uranus. We don't need to see Uranus. We've seen it plenty of times. Perhaps it is an April Fool's article, folks. But in any case, if you want to read about that, it's on Cosmos Magazine. Astronomers declare no further research required. We already know everything we need to know about the universe. You're welcome. And that's today's cosmology segment. Moving on. To talk electrons, here's a 1-year chart. You can see it on solon.info if you must. There it is. Here's a 3-day chart of the electron flux. It's in a moderate range. And we can expect this to crater when the coronal hole wind stream arrives. So I would tend to agree with this forecast here of a dip in the electron flux. That's the NOAA forecast, by the way. The NOAA forecast for electron flux is the green square. And the yellow diamond is not a Lucky Charms marshmallow, it's the observation. Here's a diagram of the Van Allen belts, inner and outer. And here's a total electron content forecast, which will give you a good idea of where GPS errors will occur. And we see some anomalies which we see more likely to happen during coronal hole wind streams. Due to the cratering of that electron flux, you're more likely to see a GPS error at night than you are not during a coronal hole wind stream. Here is a diagram of the atmosphere. Yes, the atmosphere. Check it out. It's got the troposphere, where all of your weather occurs, and it's got the stratosphere, where nobody is flying planes and spraying chemicals. Here's a diagram of the ionosphere in vibrational frequency. And we've updated this to include the most possible data that we could show. So we're showing the previous day here at 15 minutes per second. So we are seeing some anomalies here once again over places like the South Pacific. As well as quite a large nighttime discharge region, as you can see there. Very low frequency region there, a very low frequency band. Making for a dark night in terms of electrons, in terms of ionospheric vibration. And then you see a sudden charge up reaching all the way to the poles. So some minor ionospheric anomalies here, mainly over the South Pacific Ocean and the Southern Indian Ocean so far. And here's the latest image. That is from 9:45 Universal Time. Here are surface winds of the eastern world. Some strong ones off the Kamchatka Peninsula. Here are jet stream winds of the east. Here are jet streams of the west. Once again, a turbulent North Atlantic. And that'll make for some bizarre weather if you're in those areas. Let us know. Leave us a comment. Perhaps take a video. Tell us what's going on in your location. And look at the boxy surface winds here near Bermuda. Not near Bermuda. Near the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Check it out. Funky surface winds here. That is some anomalous stuff going on there, folks. Does it translate to the jet stream? And indeed it does. That is an anomalous, ultra-powerful surface to jet stream level low happening right there. Probably making for some high seas. And I'm not talking about the beverage. Get below decks when you make your beverage. And let's look at snow depth. It's snowing in the northeast. It's raining on me and it feels icky out. It's snowing in the northeast. Here is the Euro forecast until tomorrow around noon. There's where we expect things to be in terms of snow depth according to the European forecast. It looks like most of the snow is complete at this time. At the time of this broadcast, which was streamed live, by the way. Some lightning off the coast of the U.S. as well as in the Middle East. Let's continue on. Here's a U.S. Doppler radar map, and you can see that snow. Quite heavy in places like northern Pennsylvania and central New York. The western part of the state being spared for once, as they're probably still buried out there, despite it being spring. Here's what's going on in the cloud layer. Here's the water vapor map. Back to the cloud layer. And back to the water vapor map. You can see dry air is pushing things through at a pretty decent pace here. Don't expect a lot of stagnation with your storms. How about some latest solar images? It's a bonus of features. Here's one that's only 1 minute and 43 seconds. 1 minute and 43 seconds old. It's from El Teide, Spain. And it's hydrogen alpha, which is 6,562.8 angstroms. And it looks like there may be some clouds there at the end, as we see some oddities in the imagery. It's not because Nibiru passed in between the camera and the sun. Welcome to the Neo Renaissance, folks. Visit our websites. If you haven't checked them out, smAsho will take you to most of them. Today's featured merch is findable by clicking on the smAsho merch. See that? smAsho merch. You click that, it'll take you to our Redbubble shop, at which you could purchase a Fauci Committed Fraud Essential t-shirt. Yes. Shut up, Fauci. Fauci, shut up. Have you seen the video? Shut up, Fauci.
Fauci, shut up. Yeah.
If you haven't seen that, check that out. Thanks to our patrons, the true source of funding for the content, as we make just a sight of nothing on YouTube. Patreon.com/smAshomash if you'd like the earliest alerts on things like coronal mass ejections before they happen. You can't do so just by joining the SMASH team. You'd have to become a patron. Thanks regardless to the SMASH team. please leave a comment. Let us know what you're up to. And if you'd like to enter the Slam Poetry Contest and become a patron, which is going on all through April. Yes, Slam Poetry. You can find out all about it at smashamash.com/forum. Now it begins. Will you submit some gear and win? Will you live in fear and check in to put your ear to the rail? Will your poetry fail to amuse? Who views? Don't lose. Now you. Yeah, the viewer, that's right. Also introducing AmbiHost. If you haven't heard of AmbiHost, well, it's sort of being reinvigorated here as we will be providing things like web hosting services, graphic design, and so on. Website design, corporate branding. It's coming. And check out bonus features. It's the high-res magnetogram and the high-res intensitygram, just refreshed to show you a heap and helping of 0 sunspots. Some active regions setting up here in the northwest, but besides that, very little magnetic organization, period. Here's a full disk view of the low output local yellow dwarf in 304 angstroms, ionized helium. Here's 171 angstroms, ionized iron. It's iron 9, if you were wondering. And here's a close-up of the setting regions. Thanks for tuning in, folks, to the Daily Space Weather. Check out our other playlists. Remember, stare at the sun, attempt to understand the physics. And when you're doing so, don't drink. But if you do, don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, would you like to win a free month of Patreon? May that solar wind be at your back. And don't be April Fools. Press like and subscribe. Press share. Tell your friends, foes, science noobs, and science pros about the channel.